Hello, I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is the first of a series of 3 articles on age verification and then talking about why it is completely safe and you don't risk privacy issues with it. And then talking about when it's implemented properly, and then talking about Discord, and that's the third one, will be about Discord specifically, and why you don't need to be scared about what Discord is doing, and what you can and can't do, and how to prepare for that. Because Discord is going to roll out age verification globally at the beginning of March 2026, and I'm recording this in mid-February 2026. So this first video is about age verification. And so why is there so much attention on verifying people's ages online? And why does anyone do that? And so we know historically, the first one, the ones that really got it started was in the United Kingdom, where I live. So I can talk about it from someone actually living in the country where it started. And the reason that we got age verification and the Online Safety Act was because of a young teenager called Molly Russell. And the coroner said that the reason that she committed suicide was because algorithms pushed content that she didn't want into her feed, things she wasn't searching for, and they just filled her feed with content that was encouraging suicide. And this led to a huge movement by both parents and kids asking the government to do something about this. So it was not led by the government, it was led by parents and their kids, saying, do something about this. This isn't right. And so that's the reason. It's not motivated by any government attempt to do anything. And people worry, but this is all about surveillance and the government is using it to survey people and they're using it to somehow oppress us. But this United Kingdom has very strong privacy protection. If it was something to do with government surveillance, it would start in a place like Iran or North Korea. But no, you talk about United Kingdom, and then the next big news story is Australia, and these are not places noted as being repressive regimes. I think most people would agree. They are indeed places that have got very strong human rights. So why is it happening? Why are we suddenly getting age verification now? So first of all, one reason to understand why we have it at all. So we've had it in what they call inverted commas the real world, offline, not on the internet. And I was just in the shop buying some groceries just now, and I noticed as I went in the door, there's a big notice saying, if you're under 25 and you want to buy age-restricted products, they said cigarettes, e-cigarettes, tobacco, e-cigarettes, or alcohol or other age-restricted products, then be prepared to show your photo ID. And it was things like a passport, or we have an ID you can get to vote if you don't have a passport, and things like that, or driving license. So that is absolutely normal in the real world. Nobody questions that at all. You don't get people marching through the streets saying, stop asking us to show our photo ID when we buy alcohol. And the many other things like that. An example is your driving license. Indeed, you can only get a driving license if you're over 18, and 18 or over, sorry. And this can seem very unfair to a young kid. So when I was at university, then I remember there was a young teenager in her early teens who got a degree in mathematics, and then she got a degree in physics at the same university, at Oxford University, which is where I was at doing my postgraduate work. and she so she could do that. She could go all the way to university as a young teenager. So why isn't it the same with driving? There must be some young kids, teenagers, who have everything it is necessary to be a responsible driver, to drive a double-decker bus throughout London. Surely there must be. They have the alertness, they have the awareness, they've learned their highway code, they are very aware they don't get distracted, they're very careful drivers. There must be people like that who are young teenagers, but they're not permitted to drive. And the reason is because we get people who would self-identify and say, look, I'm a very careful driver, I can definitely drive the double-decker bus. Please just let me pass the driver license and then the HGV license, and I can assure you I'll be a good driver. When in fact they're not accurate about themselves. They are being too confident. So we have to have a law of some sort, and so we have decided an age barrier, that unless you are 18 or over, you just can't even start that process. So it's very similar online. It is unfair for kids who would be very careful and wouldn't be harmed and are not going to be swayed by these things that they see online in the way that other kids are. But we have to have a line somewhere, and so that's why it's done. So once you recognise, and then you could ask, but why so recently? Because we've had internet for ages. Well, when I was, maybe a little bit of history can explain that. So when I was very young, when I was in a young teenager, when I was in my 20s, there was no possibility of anyone using a home computer. There were only a few computers in the entire country. And I was actually lucky enough, from 1971 to 72, I was actually doing basic, just maintenance work of programs for the Culham Laboratories, which is one of the few places in the country doing nuclear fusion research, one of the few places that actually had a computer back then. And then when I went to university, we had by then they had the very small PDP, was thought of as being a small computer, PDP-11s. There were many more computers around. I think even just 1 year was made a significant difference. And there was a university computer department. And because of my background, anyone in the university could use it, but I was one of the very few who did. Because I knew how to program. And basically, if you didn't program, there wasn't much point in using a computer. And so then later on, we got the internet and we got email, and people started having email addresses associated with their place of work or the university. And then later on, we got home computers. But even all the way through to the first decade of this century, then your home computer would be a place, one computer for the entire family. And there would be, for instance, they used it for maybe computer gaming. It was, in the early days, you couldn't possibly do video streaming, and even large images took ages to download. So it was for internet, for email, and for not very much browsing of the internet, because it just took so long. So things like email and computer games. And so you'd have, and that's why even today, all of the Windows operating systems by default have this ability to install as many users as you like. And that dates back to when it was absolutely essential. Nobody would buy a computer unless you could have multiple users, because you need to have different accounts for everyone in your family or household, because few people were able to have a computer of their own. So that's the way and that continued right up to well into this century. And then you started to have, adults had mobile phones, and then it was just very gradually they got to the point where everyone has, and the smartphone was the first Apple iPhone, that was this century, and I'm pretty sure. anyway, it's certainly widely used only early this century. And so that's how it's not been needed until recently, because there just weren't kids online and when there were eventually kids online, they had their family computer, they might use email and very little else online. And then you started getting people watching videos and things online. And that was still on the family computer until it's only just the last decade or so that it's been a bit different. And then once they did start being online, they weren't doing the sorts of things they're doing today. And it's only recently that social media has been a big thing. It's only recently that social media started actually pushing things into your feed. Back when social media started, when the early days of Facebook, all you saw in your feed was posts by other people in your Facebook friends. You only saw posts by for instance, your family or whoever it was that were the other people. In my case, all my relatives got on Facebook, and I thought I'd better too. And I saw their posts and their photographs and things that they uploaded. And then they all have now moved to WhatsApp, but I'm still on Facebook. So most of them. So these things move and change, but that was how they did it back then. Then you start getting social media. X was the first one to actually, which was Twitter back then, where you start getting people following celebrities. That was what didn't happen on Facebook. It happened on Twitter, and people started following favourite celebrities on Twitter. And then more and more, got people following people and seeing content from people that they knew nothing about. And it's all that has actually come to a head in just the last few years, where it's got to the point where it's very easy, and also much more online, much longer. So nowadays, just about every teenager has a smartphone. It wasn't like that at the start of this century. They're very expensive things, and very few people had them when they did start appearing. And now you get one for really quite low prices, and lots of kids have them. Just about every kid has one. And so that's why started to need age verification online. It's like if there were no kids that could go into shops, because for some reason the shops were very inaccessible. They had big staircases that only adults could climb up or something. There isn't such a. I can't make an exact analogy, but if you imagine there was some reason young kids just couldn't physically get into shops, then we wouldn't need age verification in shops. And it's very much the same, that because it's only recently that kids have been able to explore the internet so widely, and only recently they've been on it so much, and that's why we have age verification. And there was a little bit lag of a few years for the cases to actually happen, like for teenagers to commit suicide because of what they found online, and then that led to all this. So that's the reason. It's not some big conspiracy. It's just that the time has come where there's young kids are spending so much time online, and then they needed some way to actually regulate what they can access online, just like we have regulations for what they can access offline. And then once you have age verification, it means adults who want to talk about extremely disturbing things for young kids, could be very extreme violence, and they could have very good reasons for wanting to talk about it, but they want to make sure there are no kids around. And then, of course, nowadays, adult pornography for those who engage in that sort of thing. Then, and any other form of content that you don't want young kids to see, then you want it. And everyone should want it, not just the young kids. So, of course, some young kids will try to go to see these things that they shouldn't. But we need age verification for it, just like we need for the for in real life. So just like in the cinemas, they used to have 18+ films in the cinemas, and so it's just like that. And then you, so that's the reason for age verification is, and then you have the thing that is actually driven by kids themselves, that they want to be protected online, and the parents, most of them. So they actually don't want to have their social media feed filled with things that are going to harm them. And we meet that all the time in our group for adults. So we get adults whose social media feed is full of stuff they don't want to see. And they complain to us and they say, look, what can we do about it? So I've done these blog posts about how you can get rid of all the news on your computer, and how you can train your social media algorithm so it doesn't show the things you don't want to see. So it's a problem for adults. So of course it's a problem for young kids. So then once you have all that background, and if you agree with all that, and so whether you agree or not, certainly this is the motivation for it. And that is why the United Kingdom, why Australia, the governments did this under pressure from parents and pressure from kids. Then that's why they did it, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, there might be some people who don't agree that we should have an age limit for driving too. I don't know. But this is what's been decided, and that's the reason for it. So once you realise that, okay, this is the reason for it, then our very best minds have put their mind to the task of the best people of best understanding of technology and how computers work and what's practical and what isn't. And they have found the best way to do it that is most preserving of privacy, that is doesn't permit surveillance at all, that doesn't permit any kind of government inspection of what you're doing. And this has been very strong reasons behind the architecture of how they do age verification. So that will be my next video, and for that I need to write so I haven't written any of the blog posts properly yet. They're just piles of notes. So this will be for the first one. I'll finish this blog post and post this. The next one will be on age verification. I need to complete the blog post first before I do that, because I will want to look at the actual details about how they do age verification, go through it step by step. So I have some things to put into a blog post, and I'll do a video to accompany it. But this is the first video which I can do right away, which I felt I didn't need to complete the blog post first. So I'll upload this, and I hope this helps get started, helps you get as a start to this series of 3 blog posts that I plan to do.